Ladies, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the harder you try to get a man's attention, the more he seems to pull away? It's almost like the moment you start chasing, he starts running. And here's the truth: attraction doesn't grow when you chase him. It grows when you become someone he doesn't want to lose. When it comes to relationships, one of the most powerful things you can ever do to flip the dynamic is to truly value your own time. Think about it: the moment you make yourself available at all hours, the moment you cancel your plans just because he suddenly decided he wants to see you, you are sending him a silent message that his time matters more than yours. And over time, this creates a dangerous imbalance. He doesn't mean to take you for granted, but because you've shown him that you're always there, he stops valuing the effort it takes to keep you. Human nature is simple. What we get too easily, we rarely appreciate. Now imagine this instead: you have your own schedule, your own commitments, your own passions. You don't drop everything when he calls. If he texts you at 8 p.m. asking to see you, and you already had plans with your friends, you politely tell him, "I'd love to, but I'm busy tonight. Let's plan another day." That one small act shows him something incredibly attractive. You're not waiting around for him to decide when your life gets exciting. You already have a life that's full, and suddenly he has to make an effort to fit into your world instead of expecting you to revolve around his. When you value your time, you also send the message that being with you is a privilege, not an entitlement. It's like when someone gets a front row seat at a sold-out concert. They know how rare it is, they know how lucky they are, and they treat it with respect. That's exactly how a man feels when he realizes he can't just snap his fingers and have you there. He has to step up, plan ahead, and prove that he's worth your presence. This isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about balance. When you respect your time, you naturally teach him to respect it too. It doesn't mean you never make compromises. Of course, relationships are about give and take, but it does mean that you don't sacrifice everything that matters to you just to squeeze into his schedule. And this shift is magnetic. Because the truth is, confidence and independence are far more alluring than constant availability. Think about the women you've seen who seem to have men wrapped around their finger. They're not the ones who drop everything at a man's call. They're the ones who seem fulfilled, busy, and engaged with their lives. They don't need him, but they choose him. And that choice is exactly what makes a man chase. He knows that if he doesn't make the effort, someone else will, because a woman who values herself never sits around waiting for someone to finally see her worth. So, how do you start practicing this in your own life? Begin by building a calendar that excites you. Fill it with things that bring you joy, whether it's dinner with friends, a workout class, or time spent on a personal goal. When your life is already rich, you don't feel the urge to chase because you're not empty. You're fulfilled. And when he sees that, when he notices that your happiness doesn't depend on him, it ignites his desire to be a bigger part of your world. A man will always chase a woman who treasures her own time, because that kind of woman doesn't settle. She doesn't cling. She doesn't beg for attention. Instead, she embodies the kind of strength and self-worth that makes him think, "I don't want to lose her." And that's the ultimate secret. When you value your own time, he starts valuing you more than ever. One of the most attractive qualities you can ever show a man is the ability to set clear boundaries. Many women fall into the trap of thinking that if they are too firm or too demanding, they might scare him away. So they tolerate behavior that makes them uncomfortable. They let him cancel plans without notice. They let him disappear for days without explanation. They accept half-hearted effort just because they're afraid of losing him. But here's the truth: when you don't set boundaries, you don't just risk losing him, you risk losing yourself. And ironically, the very thing you fear, him pulling away, often happens faster because when there are no boundaries, there is no respect. Boundaries are not about punishment, and they are not about playing hard to get. They are about teaching someone how to treat you. Think about it this way: when you walk into a beautiful home You instantly respect the rules because you sense the care and pride the owner has for it. Shoes off at the door. No food in the living room. You follow those rules because the space communicates value. The same applies to you. When you set boundaries, you are showing that you value yourself. You are essentially saying, this is the standard for being in my life. If you want access, you need to honor it. Men don't fall for women who tolerate everything. They fall for women who make them step up. A man doesn't respect effort he didn't have to give. When you draw the line and show him that you won't accept inconsistency, half-truths, or disrespect, you create a powerful shift. Suddenly he realizes he can't coast. He realizes he has to bring his best if he wants to keep you. And far from pushing him away, that actually deepens his attraction. Because deep down, every man wants to feel that the woman he's with is special. If she accepts anything, she doesn't feel special, she feels desperate. Now, boundaries don't need to be aggressive. You don't have to shout or lecture. They can be quiet, graceful, and firm. For example, if he cancels last minute, you don't explode in anger. Instead, you calmly say, I understand things come up, but I value reliability. If this happens often, it won't work for me. That one sentence speaks volumes. You didn't beg him to change, you didn't cry for attention. You simply stated your standard. And if he's the right man, he'll rise to meet it. If he doesn't, you've just saved yourself from investing in someone who was never going to give you what you deserve. What makes boundaries so powerful is that they're rooted in self-respect. When you know your worth, you don't feel the need to chase. You don't feel the need to cling to someone who isn't showing up. Instead, you attract men who are serious, intentional, and ready for a real connection. And the man who truly cares about you will never be turned off by your standards. He'll be inspired by them. He'll feel grateful to have a woman who challenges him to be his best, not one who accepts the bare minimum. The most magnetic women are not the ones who allow everything in the name of love. They are the ones who protect their heart with wisdom, who let love in but never at the cost of their dignity. When you set clear boundaries, you stop chasing and start leading. You show him that your love is precious, and only a man who respects that will get to keep it. And in doing so, you transform yourself from someone who hopes to be chosen into someone who naturally inspires a man to choose you every single day. There is something undeniably magnetic about a woman who is fully alive in her own world. When you are lit up by your passions, when you have things in your life that make you excited to wake up in the morning, you naturally radiate an energy that draws people in without effort. Too often, women make the mistake of centering their entire happiness on a man, waiting for his text, waiting for his plans, waiting for his approval. But when your sense of joy depends on someone else, you lose your power. And nothing makes a man pull away faster than the weight of knowing he's responsible for your happiness. When you live your passion, you break free from that cycle. Instead of chasing his attention, you're chasing your dreams. Maybe it's building a career you love. Maybe it's dedicating yourself to a creative hobby. Maybe it's traveling, writing, dancing, or learning something new. Whatever it is, when you pour into your passions, you're not only enriching your life, you're becoming more attractive. Because passion is contagious. When you talk about something you love, your eyes light up, your energy changes, and people can't help but be drawn to you. A man doesn't just see a woman, he sees a woman with a spark, a woman who is hard to forget. Think about if your entire world revolves around him, there's nothing for him to discover. There's no mystery, no depth. But when you have a full life of your own, he gets curious. He wants to know more about what excites you. He wants to be part of that world. Instead of asking, will she be free whenever I want? He starts asking, how do I make sure I get to be part of her amazing life? That's when he starts chasing. Living your passion also shifts the way you see yourself. When you commit to doing things that make you feel alive, you no longer feel desperate for someone else to fill the void. You begin to carry yourself differently, more confident, more independent, more fulfilled. And men pick up on that. They sense that you're not waiting around for them to complete you. You're already whole. And ironically, it's that wholeness that makes a man want to give you even more of his attention, because he doesn't feel pressure. He feels privilege. He knows you don't need him, and that makes him want to be worthy of your choice. The best relationships are not built when one person loses themselves for the other. They're built when two complete individuals come together to create something even greater. And that's exactly what happens when you live your passion. You stop being the woman who chases, and you become the woman who inspires. You show him that love with you isn't about filling a gap. It's about adding joy to an already vibrant life. That is what makes a man think, I don't just want her. I want to be part of the world she's building. So take a moment and ask yourself what lights you up. What have you neglected because you've been too busy focusing on someone else? Maybe it's time to revisit those dreams, to schedule that class, to plan that trip, to pour energy into the things that make you feel most alive. Because the truth is, when you live your passion, you won't need to chase him. He will chase you, not because you're trying to catch him, but because you've become the kind of woman he doesn't want to live without. One of the biggest differences between women who find themselves endlessly chasing and women who naturally inspire a man to chase them is how they handle their emotions. When you react to everything he does, when you panic if he pulls back, when you get upset if he doesn't text quickly enough, when you overthink every word, what you're really communicating is that your emotional state depends entirely on him. That level of emotional volatility doesn't create attraction, it creates pressure. A man starts to feel like he has to tiptoe around you because your reactions are unpredictable, and instead of being drawn closer, he quietly pulls away. Responding, on the other hand, is a sign of emotional maturity and confidence. Responding means you take a breath before you act, you consider the situation, and you choose your words and actions intentionally. For example, if he suddenly takes longer to reply, instead of sending 5 frantic messages or assuming the worst, you wait. You give yourself time to calm down, and maybe you choose to respond later with something light and thoughtful. That calm composure communicates strength. It tells him, I am not desperate for your attention, I am in control of my emotions, and I choose how I show up. That's powerful. Think about how attractive it is to be around someone who doesn't get rattled easily. Imagine he's late to dinner. A woman who reacts might explode in anger or sulk the entire evening, making the situation worse. A woman who responds might calmly let him know she values punctuality, but she still carries herself with grace throughout the night. The difference isn't in pretending you don't care. It's in expressing yourself in a way that commands respect instead of draining the connection. A man looks at that and thinks, wow, she has standards, but she's also emotionally strong. And that makes him want to step up for her. The truth is, people are far more attracted to calm confidence than they are to emotional chaos. When you react out of insecurity, you often end up pushing him further away because you're showing him that his every move controls you. But when you respond with steadiness, you create an environment where he feels safe, respected, and challenged in the right way. Instead of thinking, she needs me to validate her every second, he thinks, I need to be consistent because she won't settle for less. That shift is everything. Responding also gives you power in subtle ways. It allows you to pause and ask yourself, what do I really want in this situation? Instead of sending that long emotional message, maybe you decide that silence says more. Instead of arguing back when he's distant, maybe you choose to pull back too, letting him feel the absence of your energy. These small, intentional choices not only protect your dignity, but also remind him that your emotions aren't at his mercy. And that makes him chase, because the more stable you are, the more he wants to win your heart. Ultimately, the woman who responds instead of reacts becomes unforgettable. She's not needy, she's not dramatic, she's not exhausting to be around. She's the woman who can express her feelings with confidence and composure, and that balance makes her irresistible. When you master the art of responding, You stop being the one who chases and start being the one he chases, because he realizes that losing a woman with that kind of strength would be a mistake he'll never want to make. At the heart of attraction lies one simple truth: people value what they feel is rare. When you show a man that you are the prize, you immediately shift the dynamic from chasing to being chased. Unfortunately, many women slip into the habit of trying to prove themselves to a man. They over-give, over-explain, and over-accommodate, thinking that if they just do enough, he'll finally see their worth. But when you act like love is a plea, when you beg for his attention, prove your loyalty, or accept less than you deserve, you don't raise your value in his eyes, you lower it. The more you try to convince him, the less convinced he becomes. Being a prize is not about arrogance or acting like you're better than him. It's about confidence and self-respect. It's about knowing that your love, your time, and your energy are valuable, and not everyone gets access to them. Think of how people behave when they get into an exclusive club. They dress their best, they put in effort, and they act with respect because they know not everyone is allowed in. That's the same energy you want to create in your relationship. A man should feel like being in your world is something he's lucky to experience, not something he can take for granted. When you embody the prize mindset, you stop proving and start allowing. You stop chasing and start choosing. You show him through your actions that you are not afraid of being alone, because you would rather wait for someone who truly values you than settle for someone who doesn't. That self-assurance is what makes a man chase you. Because deep down, men are drawn to women they feel they could lose. Not because she's manipulative, but because she genuinely carries herself with standards and self-worth. How does this look in real life? It means you don't accept breadcrumb behavior. If he disappears for days, you don't reward him with instant access when he resurfaces. If his effort is half-hearted, you don't try to earn more by giving double. You mirror his effort, you hold your standard, and you let him see that your presence must be earned. And here's the beauty of this approach. The right man will rise to the occasion, while the wrong man will fade away. Either way, you win, because you're not wasting your time chasing someone who was never truly chasing you. Showing him you're a prize also means celebrating your individuality. The qualities that make you unique, your humor, your kindness, your intelligence, your style, are not things to hide or water down to fit his expectations. They're exactly what make you unforgettable. Too many women dim their light because they fear being too much. But the right man will chase you not in spite of those qualities, but because of them. Your authenticity is your greatest magnet, and when you own it, you naturally elevate your value. Remember, this love is not about convincing someone to see your worth. It's about standing so firmly in your worth that the right person can't help but recognize it. The moment you stop pleading for his attention and start owning your value, everything changes. He no longer sees you as an option. He sees you as the prize he must win, the one he's afraid to lose. And that's when he will chase you, not just for a moment, but for as long as he's lucky enough to have you.